What is going on, everyone? You're back in with another review. In today's video, we're going to be going over my AL predictions. It's the start of February. We're about to have baseball in this month, so I figured we might as well go over the predictions since pretty much the whole offseason is pretty much done at this point. There's a couple guys that can still sign and everything like that, but the core, pieces and players are pretty much signed. The only one I can really think of is Bauer, but we'll see if he even gets a contract this season. So let's start off the predictions in the AL East. We're going to talk about all the teams in there in the AL. I'm going to go over which ones make the playoffs. In last place, I have the Boston Red Sox. Right now, they have made a lot of moves, but they did lose a lot of good pieces like Bogarts. I do think some of the moves and some of the moves that the GMs are making are actually pretty good moves, but they're just not going to get a playoff spot with how many good teams there are in the AL this year. They're definitely not going to win the division, I don't think, and then even a wild card spot, I don't really think it's going to happen just because they play a lot of really good teams this season, and their division's really good as well. So for Boston, I don't think it's going to happen. I have them in last place, but I think they could go 81-81 this year, as they almost did last year. So I do think they'll have a good season. I just don't think they're going to be a playoff contender, and the AL East is really stacked this season, so I have them in last place. In fourth place, not making the playoffs, we have the Tampa Bay Rays. So the Rays, obviously made the playoffs last season. I don't have them making the playoffs this season just because, they have made a couple moves here or there, but they haven't really been massive moves. They obviously signed a couple pitchers this season. We'll see how they do. But personally, I just don't believe they're going to make the playoffs again. They did put up a really good fight against, the Cleveland in the playoffs and everything like that. And, I think I could be making a mistake here with how I have this set up. They could be, another team to get in, but we'll see because the next team I'm about to talk about, I'm really high hopes on. And if this team fails, then the Rays could definitely take their spot. So in third, we have the Baltimore Orioles at the 6th seed in the playoffs. I'm very excited for this team this season. I think if they call up a lot of their rookies, they're definitely going to be a playoff team. They almost made the playoffs with none of those rookies and just Adley Rutschman and then Henderson from the end of the season. So he was able to get some games in from there, and he looked really good as well. And they have a ton more players in the system still. So like they said, they were going to be buyers this season, but I think they decided not to because they realized how many prospects they actually had. And I think if they do really good this season and they make the playoffs, then they'll fill in the holes for next season with a lot of those pitchers being free agents. So it'd be very interesting to see how this team is going to do. And I have them making the playoffs at the 6th seed. I think they can do it this season, and I'm really excited to watch some more of those baseball. Now in second place in the AL East, I do have the Yankees. They will have the 4th seed in the playoffs just because, all the division spots are, filled out at this point. So they'll have the 4th seed. And the Yankees, they do look really solid this year. Obviously signed back Aaron Judge. Massive move right there for them on the 10-year deal. And I think the Yankees are going to be looking really good this year. The only question is about that bullpen. They don't really have a really good closer yet. They have a couple good bullpen guys in there, but they don't really have a good closer who can close out games, or really anyone that is really consistently good in the bullpen. So that's the biggest problem for the Yankees this season. We'll see how they do. I don't know if they have a couple guys in the system. I really don't know. They might have one. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see how that bullpen, the starting rotation looks really good. The lineup looks great. So excited to see some Yankees baseball as well. And the first team I have in the AL East is the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, I think Toronto is definitely a contender this season. I think they look really good. And I think this team can definitely make a run in the postseason, which we'll talk about in a minute. They have the 2nd seed in that postseason. So I think they can make a run. I think they will get the bye. But I do have them at the 1st place spot in the East just because, I think they added a lot of good pieces this season. We've obviously seen in the past what, Toronto can do. And I'm very excited to see how they do in this season. Obviously, unfortunate circumstances last season, not getting knocked out of the playoffs. But I think they can make a bounce back and try to make a run here. And I think they are going to be capable of doing it. If they get that bye, it's going to be very easy for them. All right, so let's go over the Central now. Now that the East is done, the Central, we only have one playoff team, but we'll get to that when we get there. So in 5th place, I had the Kansas City Royals. Didn't really make much moves in the offseason. They did make a couple that were pretty good. But besides from that, they're pretty much, it's KC. They're not going to be winning for a little bit. So sucks to see, but I have them in last place. So number 4, I have Detroit. Once again, Detroit made a couple moves, I think, over the offseason. No major moves. They obviously signed that Baez contract last year, so they're still paying that off. And, I don't really see them making a run anytime soon, but we'll wait and see. This is the weakest division in the league, I think, so going to be interesting to see what their decision is. Now in third, I have the White Sox. The White Sox got 2nd in their division last year, 81-81. So I'm excited to see how they do this year. I do think they can improve a little bit on that, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team yet. They still need a lot more pieces, I think, to actually become that playoff team. And yeah, I just think there's better teams in this division. We'll see how they do. Not very confident in this team, to be honest, but we'll see how they do in the season. Number 2, I have the Minnesota Twins. I think the Twins could definitely make a run this year. They might be one of the teams falling short out of that playoff spot. We'll see how they do. They did make a really good move. Obviously, they signed that Carlos Correa contract, which was, crazy, his situation going on there. And they signed a couple of their players. They got Joey Gallo back, so with the band shift, he could really be a good player. I think that's what they're going for with him, which, I think it's a smart move to be able to sign him back. And they also made a couple other moves that I'm forgetting, but I know they made a lot of moves, and I'm very excited to see how the Twins do this year. I think they could be an upset team, kind of those underrated teams, underdog teams that no one's really watching out for, but I think they can be very good this season. Now, topping the Central Division is the Cleveland Indians. They will have the number 3 spot in the playoffs. And, once again, like we stated multiple times, this division is very weak in the AL Central, very weak. So I think Cleveland got a good shot to, obviously win the division and go to the playoffs again. We'll see how they do. Obviously, they had an electric start from that last one against the Rays. And then besides from there, they didn't really play good. I mean, they played the Yankees. Would it go to Game 4, I think, or Game 5? I don't remember. They ended up losing. So, yeah, I think they could definitely get back in the playoffs. We'll see how they do again this year. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the one team people are pretty much confirming in the playoffs, just because the division is so terrible. So over the AL West, we have the remaining 2 playoff teams in this division, and we'll go over the other teams as well. So number 5 is going to be the Oakland Athletics. Oakland, I don't think they made a move this offseason. I don't remember. They made a couple moves. I think they signed a couple players, if I'm remembering. I think they signed 2 players this season. But Oakland, obviously, it's not great over there. I mean, the organization's not really great. Once again, they're still trying to figure out the stadium situation, which I think is their main priority, like I've stated multiple times. So I think they're going to suck for multiple years until they figure that out. But yeah, I mean, it's the Oakland A's. They're probably going to get last. We'll see how they do. Now, in 4th place, I have the LA Angels. The Angels are a very interesting team. It's not selling the franchise was, I think, a huge mistake on that ownership side, just because they don't know how to run a team. And I don't think they're going to get any better this year. I mean, the thing that sucks is they have really good players in the squad, but they can just never put it together. So that's the problem with this team. I mean, we'll see who comes out shining as the star. Ohtani will probably be doing his thing. Trout will probably be doing his thing. Maybe they'll do a little bit better than they did last year, but I have them in 4th right now. And number 3 is the Texas Rangers. I like this team a lot. Now, I think the Rangers definitely are going to be better than they were last year. I mean, they made a ton of moves. Interesting to see if they can actually get into that playoff spot, but I do think the top 2 teams will beat them out for it, just because I don't think they're ready there yet, or they got to have a good season at least for them to be ready. So we'll see, though. They could make the playoffs. I could be shocked. We'll wait and see. The second team in the AL West is going to be the Seattle Mariners, who come in at the 5th spot in the playoffs. Obviously, I had an electric year last year and played really well, obviously beating Toronto in that postseason and then falling to the Houston Astros in the playoffs. So I think it's going to be a very good season for Seattle. I think they're going to get back in the playoffs, and I think they're going to make some noise in the playoffs this season. So I'm very excited for this team. They obviously got a lot of young superstars, really good squad overall. So I'm very excited for Seattle. And then topping the AL West is obviously the Houston Astros, defending World Series champions. They're going to have that number 1 seed, of course. Nothing to say. Talented team through the whole board. If they don't win the division, that's a disappointing season for them. So and maybe if they don't get the 1 seed, that might be a disappointing season for them. So, I don't know. Houston Astros, they're good. They're going to get back to the playoffs. So that's going to do it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not going to be doing the playoff predictions just because, we barely even know the teams that are going to even be making the playoffs. So I think it'd be kind of dumb to do that. But yeah, those are my 6 teams in the playoffs. We had the Toronto Blue Jays, the New York Yankees, the Baltimore Orioles, the Cleveland Guardians, the Seattle Mariners, and then the Houston Astros, I think, are my teams making the playoffs this season. We'll see what happens. So there could be a couple upsets. But if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Go check out all my other social medias, my Twitter, my TikTok, and this YouTube channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.